Hey everyone, this is Scott from Forgot to Grow Up. Welcome to our 10 Things I Love from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. So today's video I'm just going to be talking about 10 things that I love specifically about The Phantom Menace. Now I love all of Star Wars, obviously, everything about it, all the little things, all the things that annoy some people. I like those too, but that's just because of me. But yeah, so this video I just decided I was rewatching the whole saga leading up to the Rise of Skywalker, and so I thought I'd talk about specific things from each of the movies that I really love. And so, after having watched episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I've come up with 10 kind of pretty much examples of things that I love in it, ranging from just, character moments to big action scenes. So yeah, let's just get started with, in no particular order other than they kind of happen in this order in the movie because I was writing down my notes as I was watching the movie. So yeah, starting off with one of the first things I love from Star Wars: The Phantom Menace is the opening scene. Star Wars movies all have great just opening scenes, and The Phantom Menace had a great one. I remember seeing it in the theaters and just being so like, who are these mystery Jedis? Or you're not even 100% sure at first if they're Jedis. They seem like it, and then them go on them coming onto the Federation ship as negotiators, and then them kind of having to deal with some droids and different stuff like that. So I just really like this opening scene and how it like starts off not slow, but just kind of like a little suspense building, and then you see right away that the Federation tries to kill the Jedi negotiators, being Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, which was a great kind of introduction for those two characters, seeing the dynamic of this master and apprentice, and being introduced to a young Obi-Wan, a character who we knew from the original Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, and so that was just kind of fun. This fun introduction, and I just love it. And I also love just seeing them chopping through droids. I also like that droids are like the choice of dispensable enemies for the Jedi, because they're just great to see them just chopping through all of them with their lightsabers, and it's not gory at all, so it's a little more family friendly. So I just really enjoyed that, like, combination of having these like I said, disposable enemies for the Jedis to just chop through, and to be able to see the Jedi Knights at their kind of height of power in the beginning of this. Like, these two walk in, just two Jedi Knights against a ship full of droids and stuff like that, and you see they kind of walk about the place almost freely as they will. I also like that we see a few of their force powers demonstrated. Not that they get used too much. We see at one point some like force speed. They hustle down a hallway, which I really like. I don't know that we didn't bring that back anymore, but I thought it was a good way of kind of showing that these are Jedi at the peak of their abilities. They've had all this training from centuries of the Jedi Order being around and having all these teachings and going through an actual, teaching program, in a sense, going through Jedi school to learn these tricks. So it makes sense, and we kind of learn right at the beginning of this movie that they have these abilities, that they're not, not like Luke trying to still learn his abilities. They're like Luke in Empire Strikes Back, and so, or not Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. So I really like the opening scene with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. It's just great. And then we go on to the next thing I love is pretty much one of the next scenes, which is we see Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon rescuing the Queen and them escaping Naboo. I just like that again because they chop through some droids. You kind of still get to see the kind of arrogance of the Jedi, but at the same time they're kind of their loyalty and kind of loyalty to duty and serving the Republic, and thus helping the Queen escape, because it's her planet and she's being attacked, and so they get her to safety. And I just love like the ship design. I love seeing them kind of trying to con the droids, and then having to just when they're in the hangar trying to con the droids or trying to convince the droids that they can just leave, and then having to chop down through all of them and escape in the awesome ship. That's another great thing about this whole movie, is I really love all the ship designs, all the, like, from the Naboo starfighters to the starships and everything. I really love the look. It feels Star Wars, but it also feels height of Star Wars, the height of the Republic, and when everything was kind of, they were at peace before we pretty much start this movie, and then before we start the prequels, in a sense they were at peace, everything was good, everybody was happy, and then this stuff starts going down. So I really kind of enjoyed seeing that rescue, seeing the Jedi Knights in action rescuing the Queen and then escaping Naboo, and then we also get R2's intro and that kind of saving this ship, which I thought was funny when I was rewatching it. That it's like, well, he's just the droid that got lucky. He's the only one that didn't get shot off the top. It wasn't like he did anything special when he was repairing it that made him more special than the other droids that got blasted off. He just didn't get blasted off. But it's still kind of a fun way to bring R2 into this and kind of see his kind of significance and why he ends up sticking around for so long. They have this kind of trust in this droid that was able to save them in this pretty dire situation when they were trying to escape. So it makes sense, but it was also a little bit like, well, he was just a lucky droid, but hey, sometimes you're just a lucky droid. So yeah, I like that. And then I love, one of the next things I love about the Phantom Menace is where they end up going, which is being stranded on Tatooine. And yes, this will, maybe some people will be like, well, it's a pretty obvious thing, or kind of, yeah, I don't know the exact way to put it, but I love that they end up there. It kind of shows, like, yes, a little bit of a destiny or a fate involved in Star Wars, but I also think of it as, well, why would we be following this story if it wasn't about, the prequel of Darth Vader? And the fact that he grew up on Tatooine makes sense. That's where his family is, So I love that they end up on Tatooine when they find Anakin Skywalker, this little kid with a little bit of arrogance, which is one thing I think a lot of people miss about this first one, is that kid is cocky through the whole thing. He says he's going to be the best, pod racer and all these other things. And then throughout the movie, a lot of these things that he believes about himself get confirmed. He wins a pod race. He blows up a ship. He gets recruited to the Jedi Order. He's told he's the chosen one multiple times. That does a lot to mess up a kid's ego, and I like that as kind of a way of foreshadowing what we kind of see in the next two prequels, which his turn to the dark side, and so you can see kind of the seed of it in this one, in my opinion, at least, through Anakin Skywalker being this young, kind of, like I said, arrogant or overconfident in his abilities, which all kids are, but most kids don't then have the ability to do these things, like win a pod race and blow up a big old droid's command ship and get recruited by the Jedi Order older than most people. Like, they all are like, no, we're not going to, we shouldn't, we don't usually go this, we don't usually recruit people this old. And that was another thing that always confused me when I watched this when I was younger. I was like, wait, he's not that old, how much younger is he supposed to be? That's another actually confusing thing too, which is like, how old Queen Amidala supposed to be in this? It's like the ages in Star Wars sometimes can be a little ambiguous at best, I think. But yeah, so besides that, anyways, I really enjoy that they end up stranded on Tatooine, and this introduction of Anakin Skywalker, seeing the pod racing. Yes, I love pod racing. I love the Nintendo 64 version of pod racing, and that probably influences my feelings more about it than the scene in the movie, but I still loved it in the movie. And then we also see C-3PO's origin via being built by Anakin Skywalker, which I think is a really fun nod, but it's also one of those things that's like, well, then why doesn't anybody remember this guy? But it's also like, well, there's a lot of them. Like, he is just, a protocol droid. There's lots of protocol droids. Why would you assume that everyone you see might be C-3PO? So, but I still just liked getting that origin, seeing that it was Anakin Skywalker who built him, and adding to the kind of significance of that character and why we've seen him through all the movies. So yeah, that was a fun thing. So another thing I love about the Phantom Menace is Darth Maul, his introduction, his design, his character, all overall, I just really like the fact that he's got a double-bladed lightsaber, which he uses at one point in the movie, but doesn't light up both, which I really enjoy. The fact that, like, on rewatching, you notice this kind of thing, that, oh yeah, his handle's a lot bigger when he's fighting Qui-Gon, when he first attacks Qui-Gon Jinn on Tatooine, when they're trying to leave Tatooine, and Darth Maul gets there, and it's just like, oh, rewatching, I just love seeing those little details and be like, oh, he did have a longer thing that I didn't even notice, because that is such a quick scene. They just exchange a couple blows before Qui-Gon hops on the ship and escapes. But yeah, I just really enjoy that kind of introduction, this first kind of like that we don't really learn too much about him besides that he's this Darth Sidious apprentice, and then he's pretty strong with the Force and the with abilities with the lightsaber and stuff like that. So I just really enjoyed his character, his introduction, etc. Another thing I really liked about this episode, about the Phantom Menace, was the one scene where we see the Queen in the Senate being like, "Hey, they're attacking our planet. Why doesn't anybody care? If no one is going to care or believe me, then I'm going to go deal with this myself," which I really like as kind of, you see in a sense where Leia might have gotten some of her feistiness from, which is Queen Amidala doesn't take shit. She's willing to go, be the one to defend herself if she has to, which I just thought was really fun. Yes, a lot of people don't like the politics being involved in Star Wars, but I kind of like it. I think of it as, it's like, well, how else do you take over a galaxy? It's politics. So yeah, throw a little into that, and yes, maybe sometimes they lean a little more on it, but I don't mind it that much. So yeah, I liked seeing the Queen in the Senate, and then also leads to another thing I really loved about the Phantom Menace, which is the Queen handmade twist, the Queen Padme twist that when I was younger I missed. I'll be honest, I did not see that coming when I was younger, which is kind of, I think, the point. The fact that the Queen has a decoy, and that we spend a lot of the movie actually with the Queen herself, thinking that it's the Queen's, just her handmaiden, but it's actually it's a decoy situation, which I just thought it's a fun kind of twist, I guess, or a little fun addition to it. You see though that you kind of see that Qui-Gon had already kind of probably always suspected something, but all the other characters were like, what, huh, what, oh my god, I've been treating the handmaiden this so differently, and so I just kind of like that twist and that addition to it, and just adding to it, and particularly how she reveals it, in their kind of most desperate moment. She sees her decoy not quite being able to handle the script she was given and not being able to improvise, and so Queen's got to step up and do Queen shit sometimes. So I really like that twist, and like kind of how they reveal it in the end via her kind of showing that she's not bad, she doesn't believe herself to be better than the Gungans, and that helps get the Gungans recruited, which leads to the next thing I love about Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, which is the Gungan versus the droid fight at the end, the Battle of Naboo, as the third act's kicking off. We see them trying to take Naboo back, and they recruit the Gungans, they fight the droids, and I just really liked that battle because I thought it was just so unique. It was something at that point in my life I hadn't really seen before. It was one of the largest scale kind of space fights that I had seen that wasn't already in a Star Wars movie, and so that was just kind of fun to see it kind of playing out with these different technologies we see, the big glowy ball things that blow up stuff, and we see Jar Jar being Jar Jar through it. I'm not going to touch on Jar Jar in this at all. On the rewatch, all I'll say is on the rewatch I got a little bit more why people have such a problem with him, but I also don't think he deserves so much hate, particularly the actor who played him. But that being said, I did really enjoy the Gungan versus droid fight, or really loved that about the first movie, just as an example of having just this big fight and it being kind of a little bit different than we had seen in Star Wars up to now, but also pretty similar in a sense. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Excuse me. One of the next things I really like, which is kind of part of this lead up to the third act, or another thing I love, I should say, is we see Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan and the Queen and her guards taking back the palace, and I really like that the Queen is always part of this, and we kind of see that where Princess Leia gets her, that feistiness, that willing to step up and put herself into danger, even though she's royalty in a sense. They're both royalty in a sense. They're still willing to be there on the Crown Rebel, fighting just like they're, her own guard, the Queen's guard. The Queen is fighting alongside the Queen's guard to take back the palace. So I really just enjoyed seeing that, particularly when we see the Queen and her guards split off from the Jedi, because the Jedi have to go fight with Darth Maul. And so I really just love seeing that she took charge with her guards herself and was able to retake back her palace and throne room without necessarily needing the Jedi. Yes, she did need them to go handle the Darth Maul problem, but I like that she was able to handle herself, and that was just fun, and seeing her to retake that. But yeah, that kind of leads me into the last thing that I have at least listed about the Phantom Menace that I love, which is the Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fight. This is obviously this is one of those things that everybody I think loves about Star Wars. One of the redeeming qualities that I think everybody can agree on about the Phantom Menace, which is this amazingly long and just intricate choreographed star lightsaber fight that just goes on and on. And you see the balance between these three Jedi, well, two Jedis and a Sith who are all trained at almost the peak of their abilities, and just seeing them just fighting it out. Just I loved it the first time I saw it, and I love it just as much every time I rewatch it because it's just such an amazing scene. And then even with the twist of Qui-Gon dying during, which when I was younger I hated even more. I still don't love that we lose Qui-Gon so early in the whole thing, but it also adds to the story. It makes sense that he had to go, but I also love that it's the motivating thing for, Obi-Wan to have to just buckle down and kill Darth Maul, which I really love that killer move that he's, we think at first that he's got no hope left, and then he's able to pull himself up, cut Maul in half. And I also think that's a little bit fun too when you rewatch it, that it's like, wait, Maul had the high ground. But as a kind of forward nod to a movie they hadn't filmed yet, but I thought that was just kind of fun to think about when you rewatch, which is like, yeah, Obi-Wan clearly does not have the high ground in this situation, and yet he comes out on top. So take of that what you will, but yes, I really enjoyed that. And then ending it all off with Obi-Wan taking Anakin on as his apprentice, despite Yoda's kind of reservations about that, and kind of kicking off the prequel trilogy, and thus also the Darth Maul origin, or not Darth Maul, the Darth Vader origin. So that's the 10 things I love from Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Yes, there's so much more, and that wasn't exactly 10 things per se, but that was the things I do love from it, in particular the things that popped out upon this most recent rewatch of it. But yes, let me know in the comments below some of the things that you love about The Phantom Menace. Please don't put any things you hate about it. I will probably just delete those comments because there's lots of videos out there about all the things people find wrong with it. This is about the things I loved about it. So be sure to share in the comments below what you loved about it, and be sure to check out some more of our videos. I'll be doing more of these for each of the Star Wars movies. I'll link that at the end of this video. But yes, thanks again for joining me today. Sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and have a good one.